All right. Hello again. This is Chad Everett Broshears. I am the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia, and also the author of the future book, The Human Manual, obviously by me, Chad Everett Broshears, which explores 8 different areas of human maturity and the capacity to mature, so that not one single area of our life, once acknowledged and developed, can really cause a lot of hardship due to ignorance or lack of development. So that's what the book is about, primarily, and the how to develop yourself in each one of those areas. So today's episode on growing up in the wilds of suburbia is on playing the emotional chess game. So most people are unaware of what they're getting when they ask for advice. And this is becoming more and more prevalent for me as I continue to consult with people and help them along their journey in life with this developmental education that I have been creating basically my whole life. And I'll briefly go into that in just a moment. Let's see. So with this, I'll go ahead and get started. So I was consulting with a client recently, actually earlier today, that's going through some things, that's going through emotional situation with her husband, and she's deciding whether or not she's going to be divorcing this person or if she's going to continue her marriage. Now, there's a lot of things going on, but something that she brought up in the conversation was that that there's a position of justice that's necessary for what she has gone through. She's gone through quite a bit. All of these emotional situations where she's even come to the point of labeling it as abuse. She's sought out support from others that know her and others that may not know her that well. And the general consensus of her requests for support or advice has been continuing to perpetuate her situation, meaning that the majority of these people are giving her advice on how to stay stuck. They're helping her understand how to continue to play the role that she's being created in. So, and what I mean by that is her role that she's playing currently is that she's in a battered relationship that's coming to an end, that she's been drastically wronged by her husband, and that she's entitled to so much, including a pound of flesh, from the slights, the infractions that she's gone through. So as we were talking, and she said, "What about justice?" I said, "Well, what do you mean by justice? What's your definition of justice?" And when she defined it, what she was defining was vengeance, not justice. She said, all of the things that I've been through, I deserve something out of it, and he needs to pay. He needs to know what I've gone through. That's vengeance. That's not justice. So her position is that she is entitled to something, and the people that are offering her advice are playing a game of chess with her that she was unaware of until today. Now, whenever I say a game of chess, what I mean is that just like a game of chess, it can be fun to play. Have you ever noticed how people want to be enrolled in your situation? How they're constantly trying to get information so they know how to help your situation? Is it not very similar to you if you separate yourself from the situation, look from the outside in, that it's like somebody playing chess? They're getting enough information to understand what move to make next. That's exactly the situation that she's in. They're getting enough information to tell her what to do based off of their own desires. They did not ask her, not even once, what do you want to experience in this relationship? What do you want to experience in your life? What do you want to experience? No one in this conversation has asked her simply, what do you want? What these individuals have been asking is only, what's going on? They'd hear something along the lines of, I can't believe what he's done to you. They'd hear something that would have them say, they would hear something along the lines of, oh, he's been giving me horribly dirty looks. whenever I would come into the room, making me feel so very uncomfortable. Or he will say things that hurt my feelings. And that just has the person listening go, oh, I know exactly what you should do. Or, you know how you should behave. Or, I wouldn't stand for that. Or, why are you still doing this? Rather than, what exactly is going on? Why are you experiencing these things? What happened? At what point in time did you two start to feel like you were falling out of love? How do you express your love? How do you expect love to be expressed back to you? What is your definition of love? What is your definition of self-success? What do you need to do for yourself to be successful in this life? What contract are you under in your relationship? What exactly is it that you two agreed upon doing together with your lives whenever you said, I do? A relationship, ladies and gentlemen, is nothing more and nothing less than an agreement. I agree that we are going to share X amount of time, X amount of experiences, X amount of sensations together under the guise that you and I are together in this and we call each other one. How many times have you actually sat back with the person you're in a relationship with and said, well thought out and fully understood, my life requires that I do this for me. I need to be in bed by this time. I need to eat this type of food to remain healthy and to have the body type I want from me, not I want for you. How many times have you actually sat back and said, if I've accomplished and accumulated this much money with my life, with the actions that I've done, with what I plan on doing with my future, what I want to leave my children, what vacations I want to go on, what parts of the world do I want to see, what kind of television do I want to watch, what books do I read? This is what I need for me in order to feel satisfied. Or do you take, like so many others, the approach that I'll get all that other stuff straight once I find the right person. We'll realize this stuff as we discover it together. How many people discover it together rather than they enter the relationship with the expectation that they're going to find themselves through the other person? When both people get into the relationship with that mindset, how much preconceived notions are there? Sorry, not motions, notions. How much of that is true to you? I'll figure this out. We'll figure it out. We don't have a plan, but we'll make it work. Every little thing you have to restrain yourself from experiencing that you truly desire to experience can become ammunition for towards the other person that you're proclaiming to love. Whenever you feel like you need to do more for you, but you don't necessarily know how to articulate how much more you need to do for you or what exactly it is that is bothering you. As you sit back daily and realize that you're upset, you're bothered, you have no understanding to why you feel completely fatigued, completely drawn out, without resources, that you're sacrificing yourself for another, that you need to do something and you don't feel the reward that normally you would expect from your actions, that you go off and you work all day and you come home, and the person that you come home to see is also fatigued out, tired, with a high level of expectation that they be treated in a certain way that you may not even understand how they need to be treated because it was never truly clearly defined that that's what makes a difference for them. You're almost certainly going to come home with that expectation for yourself, and probably just to be left alone enough that you feel like you've at least gained a little bit of yourself back after a long day. When you're not asked these things about yourself, whenever someone offers you advice, are these people coming from a different perspective that we can agreeably come to terms of thinking and seeing it that it's arrogance, that it's not a place of non-bias? I am going to infect you with my belief of what success is because I did not gather enough information to really build the situation that you're going through around in my own perspective, so that maybe I'll sit in your desires long enough to understand compassionately what move to take next, how I truly would behave. But rather, I'm going to listen to you just enough that I can project myself into the situation under my own terms. And you tell me how bad things are, but yet you don't know how the relationship got to this point, what the relationship is supposed to express, what is it supposed to experience, where is this relationship supposed to go, what sacrifices have been made on both parts in order for this relationship to work up until this point. But no, it's not asked. So rarely are things like that asked, that people hear something and they say, oh, I wouldn't do that. They may have built off of a last time they were treated in a similar way that they're being guided towards thinking in their own mind that it's the same or very similar. Oh, the last time this person did this, I would not tolerate that. I wouldn't sit back and say nothing. I would say something. And yet you don't know what that person really would do. Perhaps the last time something like that happened to this person, they simply sat back and thought to themselves how they wish they could behave. But yet it's untried, untrue, because they had not behaved this way yet. How frequently do you think people give advice from a fantasy rather than from their true reality? If only I could speak up and really share my mind with somebody, then you would know me. Then you would not, could not be like that towards me. But only if I had enough gall to actually speak my mind. I'll speak my mind freely and openly with you because you accept what I have to say. You're an eager audience. You're a participant that I can just express myself and seem like the victor from my past transgressions. But I don't really have the gall or the experience to truly say such a thing to somebody else whenever I'm that upset. I'd rather passively, aggressively manipulate myself and believing that I could do this whenever those opportunities arise. You've just gotten advice from somebody who hasn't even tried their own position. And you go towards the relationship with this kind of backing. You have this new infantry that has your back. You have this new perspective, this kind of enlightened viewpoint from something that hasn't even been done by the person that actually offered it to you. And you're trying to take an ill-prepared opportunity and utilize that information. As you approach your partner and you have this combative conversation that you've been so energized emotionally for a fight, that you've been put together by a coach that has never even played the fucking game. And then you expect to have a perfect outcome. You expect the relationship to find its resolve according to the manifestation of a fantasy that another person caused you to believe. And you expect a high-level outcome. You have the conversation. It does not go the way you want it to, completely or at all. And then you return back to the person that made you believe that yes, you can do it this way. I told you I wouldn't tolerate it. I would do it this way myself. And what happens? They reinvigorate you. Oh, you see what you did wrong is that you didn't do this. Or you know what you should have said there. Or you know what? Why are you bothering? Continued to be positioned from a fantasy. They don't know enough about what's going on to even offer advice to you, let alone understand how to guide themselves. Are they in successful relationships through and through, not just socially acceptable to the point where you think, oh, wow, they're really in love with each other. But when they go home, they do nothing but fight. You don't even know necessarily if that's a truth, if you don't even really know them that well. Maybe the facade is put forth. maybe, just maybe, they spend most of their time making you believe that they're in a better situation than they are. And you just took advice from this person who's playing emotional chess with you. This person has no skin in the game other than your acceptance of what they have to say. It's safe to move you as a pawn on any direction on that chessboard. That is emotional chess, my friends. If you don't take the time to understand who you are, you have no way of understanding whether or not the person offering you advice is congruent with their own understandings of success in life. But you will take their advice if it sounds convincing enough. If they get energized emotionally enough, you'll take their advice as long as it's putting you in the victor seat. Now, to further along with the conversation that I had earlier with this client, I told her part of her homework is to unmask the villain. She's playing a game. The chessboard is playing a game. The game is two sides. One side of the chessboard, her role is the victim. And the other side of the chessboard, his role is the villain. We love a good conversation, a good story of triumph in our country. We love to back up the underdog, the one that's being villainized, the one that is victimed and that has been victimized. We love to back that one up, to really stick it to that villain. Whoever that villain is, that's the skin in the game for the person offering their advice in emotional chess. I want that person to suffer. That's the dark side of empathy, ladies and gentlemen. This is also one of my gripes with the legal system and our court systems in the United States. Empathy can be a son of a bitch. It can be dark, just as it can be bright. It can be beautiful. It can be destructive and dangerous because it makes people presume positions that may not fully be accurate. But because you empathetically signal or you see an empathetic reason to get close to another person because they humanize themselves in such a way that you see you in them. You know who else is really good at this? Sociopaths, psychopaths. They are really good at having you believe their position is your position. Now, I'm not saying that all people that do that are doing it like that for purposes of the sociopath or psychopath, nor that even those sociopaths or psychopaths that would be clinically diagnosed as such actually know they're doing it for any sort of malice. But yet they're doing it for a reason to survive, just like you and I would do whenever we're highly attuned to empathy. So on this chessboard where an individual is playing, and we want desperately to have a victor, we want desperately to get that idea of justice that this person was starting to define for me. Once we get to a position where we understand that justice really meant vengeance, I need to cause you harm because you've caused me harm. That is not justice, my friends. That's vengeance. I'm not saying that vengeance is wrong. I'm not saying that it's right. I'm just saying that it is misplaced in its definition. She's not functioning out of the concept of what justice is. She's functioning out of the concept of what we believe vengeance is, but yet called it simply justice. She's positioned on this chessboard, waiting for those that she's enrolled in the situation to reposition her, to give her more fuel for the fire. She has taken no steps inside of this conversation to develop herself, to get her to what she wants to experience in life, to use this frustration and emotional fuel, to use it as a fuel source once put into the right vehicle to get her to what she wants as success in life. She is being enrolled and being blinded by the idea that the best way to live her life is to get this man to understand that she's better, that he's wronged her, that he should feel the pain for what he's made her feel. So her homework was unmasking the villain, to rehumanize the person that she has villainized, that she has gone out and spread this conversation with others and enrolled them in how bad he is as a person, and actually got her in such a place that they want to see her triumph over him. That his position is one that's closer to evil, and her position is one that's closer to good. This is a role that's played out regularly in people's lives. This was her goal, and she didn't even realize it. She said that 99% of the people that she's talked to agree with her. She's owed. Justice should prevail. He needs to know what he's done to her. And I said, well, don't know about the others that you've spoken with, but I can tell you that I do not agree with your position. And she was a little shocked that I was unwilling to play the game with her, that I took my chess pieces off the board. I refuse to move. I stand for her and her development. I'm helping her create a vehicle that will take her out of her current degree of self-imposed suffering and get her to where she wants to be in her life, in a career, in her health, in her physical body. I'm helping her get that by getting her to get off the stage. I used an analogy for her whenever I brought up the unmask the villain. And whenever I first brought it up to her as the homework analogy to help her understand, I said, just think about the last time you've been to a really good play where you were watching these actors and actresses just making this beautiful, grand play. And imagine halfway in where you're absolutely just enthralled and involved into what is happening on the stage. Did you imagine that the actor mask had fallen off? And you realized at that split second that you were involved in a fantasy. And the reality is that you were sitting in a stadium or an auditorium or some place, just sitting, watching people act out something on stage. Reality snapped back. You just then realized what you have been doing. That you've been sitting in one place and just watching people. Rather than the Phantom of the Opera. Because I used the Phantom of the Opera as one of the play analogies. And I said, could you imagine the Phantom of the Opera's mask? And the Phantom, his mask had come off. And you realized that he wasn't horribly maimed. And then you realized that person was just an actor. But he did a good job. So good that you forgot you were sitting in a chair watching from the audience. It's so easy to give people advice about what to do with their relationship whenever you have no skin in the game. You can try out your own hypothesis on how things should work in this idealistic society of what healthy relationships are. You can sit back and say, you know what? I'm really tired of women right now. I've been hurt several times on this. You know what? Fuck her. This is her loss. You need to go out and you need to just go ahead and sleep with whoever you can. That'll get you over her. Or, I wouldn't tolerate that. I'd cut up every article of clothing. I'd pour lighter fluid on it and light it on fire in the front yard. I'd wait till they come home after a long day of working because I'm suspicious of their behavior and I've enrolled other people in what's going on and I have no idea what their past experiences have been. But yet, you know what? I'm going to pour hot water on them as they sit down to have dinner. Or I'm going to wait until they're sleeping. And then I'm going to beat them up with a golf club. There's so much that people resort to and they don't even understand what's going on because they've received poor advice and they accepted the advice because it sounded good, felt good, or seemed like it was going to be a better conclusion than what they've been dealing with because they don't have an ability to communicate with their partner. They don't even have an ability to communicate with the people giving them advice because the advice is not coming in a way of communication. Advice is coming in the way of told what to think, being told what to do. I say that because these people are not asking any questions about what that person wants to experience in their life, what the other person is going through. You want to stop an argument in its tracks? Stop for a second to think to yourself, what is this person going through? If you're involved in the argument and you're so desperately clinging to the opportunity to be right and to make the other person dastardly wrong, stop and ask yourself, why are they doing this? What could they be going through? Under what guides do they have to think that the relationship should be this way at this moment? Am I behaving like a child? Is the other person in this relationship behaving like a child? What's the best way? How shall we come to a resolution? That, my friends, is a mature way of dealing with the situation. You'll find great relief once you start questioning these things. Unmask the villain. If you feel like you're being accosted, repressed, suffocated, challenged, are you waiting to put yourself into, or are you already in a position that you're being wronged? Or are you actually looking to see what the other person is going through? I've had my own experiences recently with this. Most people come to me for advice. I get a lot of questions. People consider me very intelligent or wise or whatever term they want to use. I don't really see myself that way. I do see myself as being very interested in the situations and understanding. I want to know as much as I can so that I can offer the best of myself in every situation for everyone. And when I was being questioned over some things that have come to light recently in my current or my relationship, I was asked what was going on in its own accusational way after my partner had shared her experience to these two people, a couple of a friend of mine and his girlfriend. They shunned my ability to reply or respond to anything. My partner played a very vital role in enrolling them on how wrong something that I had done or had not done, how wrong it was. I wasn't asked much, and when I attempted to explain myself, I was shut down. I was unable to articulate my position in any way to this group. They rallied around her. I was fully villainized. It was only because of the love of my friend that there was an ability to get out of the way of rallying around my partner to actually attempt to see the other side and what happened. Now, this is not anything significant. Nothing significant to the point like of infidelity or anything of that nature. There was one occurrence, actually two occurrences, of something that is a byproduct of being highly, highly active in my community and with my company, and forgetting certain things that other people have influenced my partner into believing to be unbelievably significant and a testament that how much I actually care for her. And all but completely convinced her that I must not care for her because I did not act in a traditional means around the time periods that these people believed were sacrificial days that had to be completely testified and testimonials to our relationship by behaving in a specific way. They all but completely convinced my partner that the relationship was nothing but one-sided. I wasn't even playing emotional chess, but my partner was. She had no idea that other people were in control of our relationship. These are the dangers, my friend. Advice can be beneficial, but understand when somebody offers you advice, no matter how great it sounds, if they didn't ask you the key questions that I brought up during this video, during this recording, during this episode, consider that that beneficial information might not be quite as beneficial as you think it is. You'll make sense of it as the best you can from your experiences, your level of knowledge, your desire, your insights, and your outsights. The more counsel you gain with that person, the more you might realize that that person's really out for their own personal gain of being right, rather than truly altruistically offering the best advice they're capable of. Now, I'm not saying that these people are sitting in a position that they want purposely to tinker in another person's life. We have been brought up, we've been raised to behave this way. I know I was. I know my friends were. I've observed these things. And now with these insights, you can observe these things too. Emotional chess, my friends. There's a drama that plays out. It's another thing that people love. They love drama. It excites them. And the less skin in the game they can have, the more they can have fun with it. And they don't even realize it. Just consider the last time you got involved with something, whether it was somebody at work that was being ostracized because that person doesn't behave completely like you do, with absolute conformity. Maybe they're socially awkward. Maybe they're the womanizer in the group. Maybe they're the man chaser in the group. Maybe they're the one that just keeps their head down and just does their job, but just looks different or prays to a different God. And then there's stories that build up around that person, that they did something, they said something, they're after something. Maybe they're looking for the next promotion and you haven't actually aggressively tried it yourself. But you do see that they're taking action towards accomplishing this promotion. Then what? What do you do then? Most people will create a story that's most beneficial for their position. Maybe that person's just a cutthroat. Maybe they just want to take your job or just get the next promotion. And then there'll be a horrible totalitarian boss. You'll be under a dictatorship. It's nothing but a social game at work. That's politics. And I'm not on the political side that's winning. There's an ass kisser. Whatever it is, think about how you felt whenever you were talking to the other people that agreed with you. Felt pretty comfortable, kind of energizing, mildly exciting. It got you enrolled, made you want to be a part of it. That's chess. That's the game of chess that I'm talking about. It doesn't always have to be in a relationship between two people that you have no business in. Even though you've been asked for advice, you haven't positioned yourself in the right position to even offer advice. Therefore, you have no business in it yet. But yet you damn sure will offer your advice. You'll play that game. You'll make sure that that villain has the greatest suit on, the greatest suit that you absolutely love to despise. You can't wait for that person to fail, to experience hard times, hardships, or to come to what you consider good. You have no understanding of what they want in their life. But you do know what you want to have in your life. And you do know what you have or have not been able to overcome. You'll have the fantasy of how to overcome what you haven't quite overcome yet. Then you'll have the way that you did it before, That is not necessarily the right way, but it was the way you did it. It may have had significant consequences. It may have that you and that person that you were in the relationship with prior no longer see or hear from one another. But ultimately, you had a degree of success and you feel like it's the best way of doing it for everybody. And that's how you'll go about offering advice. Yeah. I do consider that offering advice without understanding what the person wants to experience, what the bigger picture is for that person, not just in the short term satisfaction, but also the long term satisfaction. I do consider offering advice without actually being properly prepared to offer that advice as being an arrogant position. It's arrogant because you believe you know best. I know that you're likely sitting there thinking, but I should have been asked, or I was asked, so therefore they must want to know what I would do. You have different lives. You have different desires. You have different likes and dislikes. Not every one of your friends like the same color you do, nor the same foods you do, or nor the same locations on the planet to go vacationing, or the same activities they enjoy during vacationing, or the favorite sexual positions, or the way that they like to express love or be loved. The education, the desires, the beliefs, the philosophies. The more you actually get into understanding the unique differences that each one of us have, the more you'll realize that your position can be unbelievably pompous and arrogant, and that your advice can be more damaging than beneficial. And you don't even have to pay the cost for it, but the person that took your advice pays the cost. They pay the cost because they are ignorant in the situation and they took your bad advice. If you want to give better advice, start asking the right damn questions. If you want to be able to get better advice, understand how to get the other person to see your perspective, and then understand how to actually see their perspective. So you can understand exactly what they're trying to convey. I get they actually care enough. They don't want to see you suffering that much more than what you are. Hell, the other person could even have motives to try to get you single, because they have this belief that when you're single and you're available, they'll be able to save you from the situation. They have a higher likelihood of being able to get with you, almost certainly be able to get in your pants, almost certainly able to find that love they just know that you two can have together. Just need to get the other person out of the way. Motives and ulterior motives are all over the place. But we don't take the time to learn to ask these questions. We don't take the time to learn ourselves. We don't take the time to know enough of ourselves to even learn the other person. But we damn sure take enough time to put a villain suit on the other person that we're in the relationship with. Whether that relationship is intimate, professional, any other variance, family related, it doesn't matter. We just don't really seem to take the time. With that, I'm going to bring the show to a close. I do appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate any feedback. If you have anything that you'd like to actually share, please comment on this video. You're welcome to share this video wherever you wish. You're welcome to anything that I can help you with, that I'm willing to help you with, what you're willing to be helped with. We'll get down to the bottom of a lot of things with this show. I thank you so much for your time. I'm looking forward to the future that we can create from this. With that, thank you again. Please share this as much as you like. You can share it on social media. You can share it via email. You can grab a link anywhere. You can do it on Twitter, Facebook, Google+. You do it a lot of places. Feel free. Thank you again. This is Chad Everett Broshears. I'm the host of Growing Up in the Wilds of Suburbia and the author of The Human Manual. Not released yet. Whenever you look up The Human Manual and you see Chad Everett Brochures as the author, you'll know who it is. All right. I'm looking forward to hearing back from you guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your Valentine's Day.